And my name is Carol Ayers. I'm the moderator for this evening's forum. This is a League of Women Voters sponsored candidate forum this evening. And we are a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose a political party or a candidate. The views expressed today are not those of the League of Women Voters. The goal of this forum is to present the views of the candidates seeking Littleton City Council seats for District 2, District 4, and the at-large seat. Tonight's forum begins with each candidate giving an opening remark for about 2 minutes, followed by questions that are prepared by the League and by Littleton residents. After the prepared questions have all been answered, questions from the audience in written form will be addressed as time allows. Please raise your hand if you have a question, and someone will bring you a card and a pencil. If while the candidates are presenting you think of a question, you certainly may do that. Each candidate will be asked the same question and has 90 seconds to respond. Please do not react, we ask, positively or negatively to any of the candidates' statements or answers, and please hold your applause to the end of the forum. We have 2 timers with us this evening. They're both League members. We have Ken Ayers and Jill Smith, and they're here in the center, so you'll see these signs going up. At the end of the forum, each candidate will give a 1-minute closing remark. Candidates are seated in alphabetical order. You'll see that we have 3 of the 4 candidates this evening. On our Zoom monitor is Robert Reichert, and he is ready for this for district. Now I'm going to blank out. District 2, thank you, and District 2 seat, and then Pam Groves is an at-large candidate, and then Andrea Peters is for District 4. Okay. So let's get started with the candidates' 2-minute opening statements regarding their reasons for running and their qualifications. So up first, in this case, is Pam Grove.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pam Grove. I've lived in Littleton here for 36 years. My children went to Littleton Public Schools. Before I became a Littleton City Council member, I was a team leader, a consultant. I worked in high tech. I worked for large companies and small companies. In terms of my qualifications for Littleton City Council, I have been on the council for 4 years. In November, technically. Before that, I was on the Historical Preservation Board for 10 years, and I was chair for 3 years. So I'm very familiar with the city, how it works, the stakeholders, staff, citizens throughout our city. Why do I want to run? I like being a citizen advocate. I like being out there and helping citizens solve problems. We can't solve them all, but we sure give it a try. I take being a representative of the citizens very, very seriously. It's not my agenda, it's what you as citizens want. I enjoy giving back to the community. I enjoy being out in the community and talking to people. Some of the areas of focus that I'm interested in are making sure that we maintain the character of Littleton. I also think it's important that we continue to be a safe city and use proactive practices. Economic vitality is very important. We need to support our businesses. We need to take care of our natural resources, protect our historic assets, and make sure that our city is a place where people enjoy living and working, and tourists enjoy coming here and spending money. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pam. Okay, Andrea?
Very echoey. Hi, I'm Andrea Peters. I have lived here my whole life. I went to Heritage High School. Did not think I would be living right back here now, but I love it. And during COVID, my husband and I had conversations and just decided we're not going anywhere. This is our lifetime house. We want to be involved. It's our calling as citizens. So we thought maybe we could both join a board. Can't actually do that with 3 small children. So I joined the licensing committee, which I learned a lot, but it was all COVID and Zoom. And when the renewal came up, I said, I don't want to do that. I want to be able to ask questions and interact. And so I thought about running for school board a few years later. And again, it wasn't quite the right time for our young family. I have now a 10, 12, and 14-year-old. And now feels like the time. I can do it. I have the energy. I have the desire. I have so much to learn. I am not nearly as qualified as others, but I want to learn and I really want to do it. And I want to advocate for my neighbors, and I want Littleton to be a place where my kids can live if they want to, and where people want to visit. And some of those concerns, I feel like, got to be good for small businesses. We've got to be good for people who do want change, people who don't want change. There's a lot to look at, but I do think this level of local government is where things happen. It feels really hopeful to me, whereas sometimes on the bigger scale is not as hopeful. So I'm excited to be a part of it.
Thank you, Andrea. Robert? And can everyone see him in the monitor over there? He's in the lower
More importantly, can
right-hand
everybody
corner.
hear me? Thumbs up? Anybody? Yes, great. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. I'm Robert Reichart. I want to start first by saying thank you to the League of Women Voters for holding this candidate forum. I feel like it's really important that the community get to know its elected officials. And while I'm very grateful to be running unopposed, I'm really grateful also for this opportunity to introduce myself and make it clear to everybody, to the best of my ability, that I'm an approachable person that looks forward to your engagement over the next couple of years around the important issues facing Littleton. As you can tell, I'm not at Bemis Library, which is just down the street from where I live, but I'm in Bellingham, Washington, dropping off my youngest child at college. And I just want to say thank you again to the League for their flexibility in allowing me to participate remotely. I've lived in Littleton since 2009 and raised my 2 daughters in Littleton and attended Littleton Public Schools. For the past 8 years, I've served on the Littleton Public Schools Board of Education, and I'm going to be termed out of that position in November. And I am going to hopefully then be able to transition to the City Council. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity to continue service to my community. I've really enjoyed my time on the board and enjoyed this opportunity to serve the community, and I want to continue that service. You know, my goals are pretty simple. I think Littleton is a great place now, and I want to keep it a great place to live, raise your family, work, and visit. And so I'm not coming in with a great big change agenda. I think a lot of the goals of the board or the council right now are moving in the right direction. I support, working to increase the amount of housing in our area, working to increase the amount of affordable housing in our area, working with our neighboring cities to address the challenging problems of homelessness. And I think this is an exciting time for our city. I think with 3A, we have some opportunities to invest in our future. And I'm really looking forward to preparing Littleton for a great future.
Thank you very much, Robert. Okay, we're going to move on to questions. We'll begin with, excuse me.
I just want to move his name tag
Oh,
to your right.
we're doing an adjustment. Okay.
If we put this to the right, we can see. Is that better?
Thank you. Very good. Okay, we're going to move on to questions. A reminder, we'll begin with moderator questions gathered from the league and Littleton residents, followed by questions collected from the audience. Our first question will go to Andrea. And the first question is, name one major problem currently facing the city of Littleton, and what policy or policies would you propose as a council member to address it?
I had the privilege this afternoon actually of sitting on a housing tour and driving around and seeing the different things that are being built in Centennial and Littleton and Sheridan and Inglewood. And I'm also, my full-time job is a realtor. So housing feels like what I deal with the most, probably. I deal with a lot of clients who are working super hard, have young kids, and can't buy a house. Houses are very expensive, as we all know. So I think when we talk about affordable housing, it's really hard, but there is a missing middle that we need to probably address in Littleton. And I would like I helped some people last spring he's a lawyer and couldn't afford to buy a house here. And they would contribute greatly to Littleton, but we had to look in Aurora and different areas. So I would love to have housing be one of the things that we tackle in the next 4 years for city council. As far as what that policy would be, I don't know.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Robert?
So I want to continue with the conversation that Andrea started. I think the housing conversation has multiple sides that we're going to be working on. The city will be working on over the next couple of years. I feel like the city's moved in the right direction with the inclusionary housing ordinance to help support low-income housing. I think we need to work to maintain our existing affordable housing to make sure. And then, there are going to be some new developments in the region, and developments will include, I think these developments, very likely these developments will include housing. And, having a conversation with the community around what these developments are going to look like and how we can have a diversity of housing options in these new developments is part of our ongoing work. And then the flip side of this housing conversation is around what our homelessness challenge. And homelessness is not an issue that's exclusive to Littleton. It's not even something exclusive to Denver. But I really appreciate our ongoing work with our partners in the Tri-City Alliance to support and do our part to address the homelessness challenge that's part of our community.
Thank you, Robert. And Pam?
Housing is very important, but I'm going to pivot on something else that's important in our community. In 2022, we did a resident survey and found that safety was very important to our residents. And what I've learned is our city is very safe, but that we need to think proactively. We can't just wait till we get a 911 call, that we need to be out there in our community. And in terms of policy, council has supported additional budget for our police force so that, for example, we can have foot policemen on downtown during the week. We can go to those trouble spots where people sometimes collect at parks after hours and just explain to them that parks are closed and continue to help make our city safe. Now, we have an issue, as you probably heard, about 3K, where we underprojected an amount of money we would get from our sales tax when we raised it from 3 to 3.75. So if we don't get that budget money, in other words, if we can't keep that money, it's not an additional tax. If we can't keep the extra money that we received, then it could impact our police force and some of the other capital projects that we have been working on. So that's something to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. So we'll move on to the second question. And this question's for you, Robert. As a member, it's not just for you, it's for all the candidates, but we're starting with you. Okay. As a council member, how would you plan to communicate with the stakeholders in your district to build trust and transparency among your constituents?
So I think there's multiple avenues for council members to communicate with their constituency or constituents. Through my time on the school board, particularly in the 2 years that I served as the president of the school board, I was in charge of kind of doing our board email communications. And so I'm very comfortable using email to communicate with constituents as a way to respond to questions. I have, as I've prepared and been campaigning, I've been talking to other council members around about the tools that they use to communicate with the community. There's obviously the council itself holds meet and greets and opportunities for people to meet with the council in the park and have pizza and those kind of things. I think that's really valuable. I had coffee with Jerry Valdez, the current District 2 council member, and he had a great idea, which was, when you receive an email, go to coffee with that person that takes the time to write with you. And I think that was a fantastic idea. I do want to say the one thing I probably won't do, because I know after doing this for 2 years, I won't have an email newsletter. I've tried to do that as a board member and absolutely failed. So I'm going to try through meet and greets and individual meetings and through emails to individuals to maintain that communication. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. So Pam?
Thank you. You're right, Robert. I think email is important, and to respond to citizens and get back to them when they bring a problem to you and research it. Sometimes we can solve the problem, sometimes we can't, but just knowing that you're working on it, I think is important. Also, coffee meetings, that's important. Also, informal kinds of events that I go to, like business chamber after hours. This year at the meet and greet, where I attended all of them, we had a booth so people could come and talk to us, and they weren't trying to find, well, where's our council person? Well, they were just here. They were wearing a blue dress or whatever. So people came to come to us. And then I have biannual citizen meetings open to everyone in Littleton, where people come and we talk about various issues. We had one on Saturday, and it's been very helpful to hear what the citizens want to talk about. This time we had a speaker. We had Doug Stevens, the chief of police, talk about some safety things. So these are the kinds of things I plan to continue if I'm reelected to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Andrea?
My husband is in tech. And so as we were building my website, I was like, are we going to do this? Should I do this? And he was like, are you going to maintain that? I was like, oh, I know when you sign up for those newsletters, if you do not get them on a regular basis, like Robert said, it's not helpful. You depend on that. So I think at the ripe old age of 41, I've learned I need to just be who I am. And I love talking face to face. I definitely want to go to whatever events as a council member I would be invited to. I really appreciate when people just pick up the phone and call me. I think when you text or email, it can get, weird sometimes. And so I'd rather just talk to people directly. But I don't have anything I can add in the way of a monthly newsletter at this point. I might change my mind on that. I don't know. But if you don't get Paul Bingham's newsletter, that's all you need. So, yeah, I think just showing up and making myself available and responding when people reach out. But I like Robert's idea of going a step beyond, and if time allows, with healthy family boundaries, to also say, hey, I got your email. Do you want to meet and talk about this?
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Andrea. Okay, this next question is for Pam. Okay. So Pam, given the population of Littleton is estimated to be almost 45,000, and the new Unified Land Use Code calls for adding up to 6,500 new housing units, how do you see this growth impacting the residents of Littleton?
Well, first of all, I don't agree with the 6,500 number. It was based off erroneous data that the state demographer's office came to us and said that the growth rate wasn't at the level that we thought it was. And so we are going to, as a city council, look at it if I'm reelected again in 2025. And I think it's important to evaluate that. Growth has been a very decisive issue in our community. We are basically a built-out community. We have a couple areas that are in the process of being developed, and anything else has to be redeveloped. I think that we need to keep in mind the character of our community, and that buildings should match the surrounding area or commercial district. And I think the character of our community makes us unique. I gave a lot of input to the ULUC. I won some, I lost some. But I keep trying to make sure that our growth is appropriate for our city and that helps keep what we value as important.
Thank you. Thanks, Pam. Andrea?
So I'll refer back to the housing tour I did today because we talked about 2 buildings projects that are taking place, and that was a total of 400 units. So I don't see where the 6,900 comes from either, or 6,500. That seems like a lot, but I know we're probably talking about projects like Lumen and Aspen Grove as well, which are further down than what we talked about today. I think if we keep that growth on those major corridors, that helps. But I know in the greater Denver metro area, there's 69,000 people looking for homes who need them. So we can't continue to grow and be a place people want to be without growth. So I think we have to have a little bit.
Okay. Thank you, Andrea. Robert?
So I don't want to, I think the amount of housing in Littleton is going to grow over the next couple of years. I think Pam is absolutely right. The majority of Littleton is built out, and the majority of District 2 is definitely built out. And so there's a few areas that I think are going to be developed over the next couple of years. And I think, I think what happened at Littleton Village in terms of having kind of mixed development in terms of single family and multifamily and then some businesses is probably the future of larger developments. The real, for much of Littleton, I think the question is going to come down to ADUs, which are where the built out parts of Littleton are we going to allow essentially mother-in-laws or increasing number of mother-in-laws? Right now, they're very limited to places with alleys. And I think that's going to be the issue that is going to affect my community the most. And I'm actually really open to feedback on that issue. I don't have super strong feelings about ADUs either way. And I look forward to getting community input on that. So, and I think I'm at my time limit. We're pretty close.
Thank you, Robert. I just want to remind everyone, if you have a question or you think you might like to write a question down as part of the audience questions, just raise your hand. Somebody will bring you a card and a pencil. Okay, this next question is for Andrea. Traffic congestion is expected to increase both inside and outside Littleton. As a member of the City Council, what ideas would you support at the next update of the Littleton Master Transportation Plan?
I get this one first. I don't know. Nobody likes traffic. I don't love that Santa Fe is huge, and I think Maps is going to start directing more people down Santa Fe if we make it bigger. I would love if our light rail was dependable. I would love to get that Line C back. In August, when it's free, I make my family ride it as much as possible because we go to a lot of Rockies games, and we have been stranded multiple times in Inglewood. I mean, what's the point of public transportation if it's not dependable? It has to be dependable. I don't think I'm addressing everything in your question, but I trust that developers have to do an in-depth traffic study when they're building something, and I think it's our job to make sure that they have done that, and that if we're adding housing, that we are figuring out how to get people from point A to point B, or to support that transit.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you. Robert?
So transportation is a complex problem, and I think it's kind of helpful to think about it as transportation in terms of people coming through Littleton, which is our main source of traffic on our throughways like Broadway and Santa Fe, and then traffic within Littleton as people try to navigate their neighborhoods. The reality is that traffic through Littleton is a problem that's much bigger than Littleton, and our main ability to manage that issue will come through our cooperation and work with our neighbors and work with DRCOG as we work together as a metropolitan area to think through transportation. And I have a lot of worries that developments in Douglas County are going to greatly add to the problem of transportation through Littleton and the congestion. I really appreciate Andrea bringing up our problems with RTD. I mean, quite frankly, RTD is clearly an agency that's struggling, and we need it to be functional. We need our light rail and other and our buses to be functional, I think, for our community to be as vital as we want it to be. And so we need to support those outside organizations. And then internally, I think we want to continue to focus on the fact that right now, Littleton is a place you can walk to many of the places that you want to go. And I want to continue to have it be a place where you can walk or easily get to all of the amenities that make Littleton a great place to live and work. And can you continue to focus on different ways that people can easily get around our community?
Thank you, Robert. Okay, I'll take, now the next question is for you, Robert. As it
I
works
think
out.
Pam didn't get to respond to that question.
Oh,
Did
I
Pam
don't-
respond?
Pam didn't. Okay, I'm not paying attention, am I? Okay.
We have a transportation master plans, as you alluded to, that requested input from the community and will be updated. And this has many, many projects on it and given some priority. The city has done a really good job of leveraging what they can get from the federal government, where we have a small match, 10 to 20%, and we get a lot of money from the federal government. One thing we're working on right now to alleviate some of the traffic at Santa Fe and Mineral is the Quad Road. I know some people disagree with it, but that's one thing that's happening there. Also, the Broadway corridor, there's a study going on there. We're also looking at Project Downtown when the water main is dug up in 25. Then we're going to look at traffic patterns, parking, and a variety of things, looking at putting the trees back, all those kinds of things. So there's various areas in the city that the city is concentrating on. With more development in some of the areas that'll be redeveloped, yes, traffic is going to be an issue, and we need to do the best we can to mitigate that and ask the developers to, be responsible for that and make sure that the traffic studies we do are the traffic studies that really help us and give us the data that we need.
Thank you, Pam, and sorry, I was getting in a hurry.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay, Robert, this is a question for you to start off. If you were asked by a constituent about ballot issue 3K, how would you explain the financial impact of a yes or a no vote?
Well, first of all, I want to really say thank you to Pam for bringing it up earlier. I think this is a really important issue on our ballot, and I'm glad she brought it up. And essentially, it's an important issue for the finances of Littleton. We passed a sales tax a couple years ago, and part of Tabor is requiring that government agencies that ask for tax increases communicate to their constituents how much money is going to be raised. The estimates that were made during COVID, when we expected the economy to really suffer because of COVID. Fortunately, that didn't happen, and so our estimates were too low. And so the amount of money that we told voters we would be raising with that tax increase turned out to be too low. And we're just going back to voters and saying, look, we missed on that estimate. We're not asking to raise your taxes. We're asking to keep this money. And as Pam already mentioned, this money is really important to some of our ongoing efforts, including increasing public safety and adding police and co-responders to our streets. And so I think it's a valuable investment that citizens can make in our community. And more importantly, this investment will also go towards our infrastructure and roads. And so for District 2, and I think all the districts in Littleton, there's going to be a lot of new roads, and the money from 3K is going to support that. I keep getting the stop sign. I never expected to get It's not you. It's
We're
me.
working on it. We're trying to stay on the ball.
Oh, I appreciate it.
We're working on it. Thank you, Robert. Okay, so Pam?
Good explanation. And one of the reasons why we want to keep this money and why we even raised the money was we looked at the capital budget and it was going to be depleted within 5 years. And this money put money back in for our roads. You've seen a lot of paving going on to help with our median, to help with buildings that were from the 1940s that are literally falling down. And so we're on track to do a lot of these public improvements. And if we can't keep that money, then it's severely going to suffer. Plus, our tax rate will go down from 3.75 to 3.33. And so we're going to be strapped for money. If you voted no, you would get $150 back per voter. So for $150, it affects how our community looks, our infrastructures. So please tell people to vote yes on 3K and let your friends and neighbors know, in order to keep our capital budget healthy for now and in the future, we need to just be able to keep the money. We're not raising any additional taxes.
Thank you. Thank you, Pam. Andrea?
I'm so glad I get to go last on this one. I don't have to re-explain. I could be wrong. I'm a baby. I don't know. But it seems like one of the first times in a long time that Littleton has money and that we can do some really cool things with it. And so for what she said, returning that $150 per person, that might go a long way for somebody. But if you can do without it, then voting to pass this seems like a vote for our city. I asked the city manager today what we would have to miss out on if we have to return that money, which would be cumbersome. And it would be, like you said, changing finances as we're planning the downtown area over the next couple of years, which, I mean, our downtown Main Street it's why people come, right? They come for the festivals we have or the criterium or different things we host on that street. So we want that street to be amazing, I think. But we would miss out, I think, on, according to the city manager, street resurfacing, safety measures for around cities, around schools, crosswalks and things that make cars slow down on those streets. And then, like I said, the downtown development plan, as we look at that over the next couple of years, it would negatively be impacted by not having money.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andrea. That ends our moderator questions. We're now taking and are going to be asking questions from the audience. And you have some more. Okay, good. So Pam, we'll start out with you this time. What is your stance regarding high-density housing, for example, Aspen Grove and others?
As you remember with Aspen Grove, it was a very difficult decision. The developer came in with 2,500 units. I personally felt that was too much. I asked the developer if they would lower it, and they said absolutely not. They ended up lowering it to 2,000. It was approved by Planning Commission. And we had a very controversial meeting where 50% of the people came in and said, yes, 2,000 is fine. And another 50% said, no, that's too much. It came before council and the vote was 4-3 to go ahead and allow the 2,500. And I was a no vote on the record. And what happened was they ended up going under the ULUC. The ULUC governs density right now. I believe that we have too much height, too much density, and not enough open space. I am a minority on council, but I continue to advocate for that because I think it's quality of life for our citizens. And I think we don't need the height and the density that we have in some places. And I will continue to argue that that is important. In some places, maybe we can have it, maybe some affordable housing units have a higher density, but it's still frustrating to me that there's less open space, less parking, and that it impacts the quality of life of our citizens and the people in the other units. So this is something very important to our community.
Thank you, Pam. Andrea?
I didn't think I was going to be next.
Oh.
I'm so glad I went on this housing tour today. I learned so much just in the nick of time. So one of the projects we looked at was a retirement community off of Powers. And I know people personally who will development from what we're calling affordable housing. They will benefit from being able to live there. And it's 50 units. If that's what we're calling dense, I guess I'm for it, but it doesn't seem that dense to me. And I think they're super careful about water waste and parking and all of that. The other one is Powers Place, which I encourage you to drive by. It's a huge empty parking lot full of weeds. And to me, empty parking lots full of weeds invite trouble. I think if we have a beautiful development that is well thought through, it's modest, it matches what we're going for, then I think, you know, maybe our teachers can afford to live here.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Robert?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, did we lose you?
No, that's operator error. I was on mute. As we talk about density, I think it needs to be, there's kind of three things we need to think about. Density, as a blanket challenge, I think is hard to talk about. I think it has to be, we have to talk about it specific to the place and the neighborhood within our city. And I think, quite frankly, our quality of life in Littleton has increased because of density that we have around our downtown. I think that we have amenities that are supported by the people that live near our downtown that make Littleton a better place to live and visit because they can support the bars and restaurants that we want to go patronize, maybe not every night, but by having that density, I think that's really valuable. I think for my neighborhood and most of the neighborhoods in District 2, it's already built out and there's going to be very little conversation around density. I think what I said earlier was, you know, for the new developments, I think mixed housing is going to be really valuable. But we need to be cognizant of the fact that the governor has kind of fired a shot across our bow around increasing density, particularly around transit. And obviously, first of all, transit needs to be functional, but we need to, I think we need to address some of these statewide concerns around affordable housing and affordable housing around transit to make sure that we can maintain control over our own destiny when it comes to housing. And I feel like that perspective our mayor has brought forward, and I think that's a good idea.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Okay, our next question is for Andrea. What is your opinion in regards to the proposed destruction and development of the historic Geneva Village?
Oh, that's a hard one since I'm not yet on council and don't have all the knowledge. So to my understanding, and I told myself I was only going to say once how inexperienced I was, but Geneva Village, I believe 12 people are being displaced. And that's awful. We don't want to ever see anyone displaced. To my understanding, I don't know that for the city's money to keep it up and running makes as much sense. So to be fiscally responsible, I think we have to look at it. Well, it's done, but I think part of the argument is against the historic preservation of it. And to my understanding, it's developed multiple times in the history of Littleton, and I don't understand why we would stop at 1965. I think we can rebuild it in a really respectful, beautiful way and actually provide housing for more people. So I'm really good with it.
Thank you, Andrea. Robert?
Well, this is one I'm really glad Andrea took first. I feel like she's covered all the really important points. First of all, it sounds like to me the decisions have been made and these are not going to be issues that face the future council. It also, my understanding is the current situation is not sustainable. We have deteriorating housing that has asbestos and other contaminants that we need to address if we're going to be responsible stewards of that land. It is absolutely unfortunate that people that are there right now are being displaced, but I do think at some point it does need to be redeveloped. And I appreciate the council, the current council, taking the bull by its horns and trying to move the ball down the field, because it is a challenging issue to address.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Okay, Pam.
I'm very passionate about Geneva Village. It was acquired in the 70s in order to expand City Hall. And initially, Geneva Village was a retirement community, and it was a Sternberg building, who was an architect that's very important to our history of the city. And we have had people, there's 28 units there. And on Tuesday night, City Council gave direction 6-1. I was the one dissenting vote to renovate rather than rehabilitate it. And we are looking at, instead of 28 units, which could have been refurbished, and maybe some combination of affordable rate and even maybe market rate, we can now build a building that will be at the entrance of our community, maybe 75 to 100 units. And for the delta of 47 units, we have given up the historical significance of this property. And it is unique. It is built around a square to build community. These people that are living there depended on their community. And now we're going to go to a high rise. Granted, 5% of them will be affordable, at least in this high rise, but I think it was a detriment to our community and really is going to impact the character and an importance. And once something is demolished, an historical structure, it's gone forever, and we can never replace it. And that's very, very sad.
Thank you, Pam. The next question is for you, Robert. Is there a sunset on keeping our Tabor money?
No, I believe I think that's the question about what are the implications of 3K, and the 3K is if we pass 3K, then we maintain the tax rates that were approved, I think in 2020. And then as Pam said, if we do not pass 3K, the tax rates that we passed in 2020 will be reduced. But those changes, I believe, will be permanent either way. I think that's what the question was. I hope I addressed the actual question.
Yes, I think so. This is a yes or no question. So if Pam, you would like to address it as well.
I don't know there's anything that I can add to what Robert says, just the importance of passing 3K really impacts our city if we lose that money and have to give it back. And it's really expensive to give back that money. I mean, the whole process is very expensive, and there's different ways to do it, lowering certain tax rates that can be done. And I think it would behoove us to keep that money and continue to have our current tax rate so that we continue to be able to make our capital improvements.
Thank you. Andrea, did you have any other comments?
I have nothing intelligent to add.
Okay. Okay, so this next question is for Pam. What priority would you put on improving bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure?
Good point. One of the things that the TMP, the Transportation Master Plan, has is looking at multimodal. And as you can see, that's important so that people can get around the city in ways other than in their car and using public transportation. So I think it's important that we continue to have bike lanes and continue to make it sure that they're safe so that people can get around the city in a safe manner. And I think it will just expand over the course of time. So I think we will continue to see that, and I think that's a good thing.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Andrea?
I think you said what emphasis would we put on it?
What priority would you put on improving bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure?
I think a city that is good for kids on bikes and elderly people who need to walk, and that's a better option for them. I think that's a good city for everybody. So good intersections, places where we slow down and it's safe, paths that are connected. I drive my car all the time. I'm a realtor. It's the worst thing. But I love those electric scooters. And I would love to be able to zip from my house straight down to Main Street and go to dinner and feel like that was a safe thing to send my kids on down to McDonald's if they want or whatever. And they do that on their bikes, but I don't know that it's as safe as it could be. So I do wish that, it's funny because I think as things develop and we get more into Amazon and, disconnected, it's like there's also this weird retro throwback. And I do think more people want to ride bikes and be able to go to the store on the corner for an onion and little things like that, like Littleton has the possibility of doing that. So if it's safe to walk and bike, I think that's awesome.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Robert?
Well, I think being a walkable and bikeable city is very valuable, and I think there's been I think we are a pretty walkable city. I think the city council has done some great moves. I really appreciate the lighted crosswalks on Littleton Boulevard. I think that's a great improvement that makes things safer and improves the walkability. I use that lighted crosswalk when I walk from my house to the Cherry Cricket, and I just am thrilled to be able to do that. Then I think we have some questions around, I've been participating a little bit or trying to listen to the conversation around the Kettering Park plan, and I hear conversations around how do we make the walk around the park more accessible. There's parts of the current walkway around the park that are very difficult for anyone who is a little mobility impaired, and I'm very excited about that conversation to ensure that all of our citizens get to walk and participate in these outside activities. The city already has a lot of bike lanes, and I would be very interested in kind of engaging in a conversation around, are those bike lanes being currently used to their maximum, and whether there are other things that we can do to improve the bikeability and use of our bike lanes. I don't have an answer, but I look forward to having that conversation. So I think we're moving in the right direction, and I'm excited about walking around this city.
Okay, thank you, Robert. This next question is just for Pam, but the other candidates will be invited to address it as well. The traffic consultant for the relocated O'Toole's on Mineral said Mineral was already fully developed, overlooking the Lumen proposal. The same consultant is doing the traffic study for Lumen. Does this make sense? Oh, yes, perhaps to explain what Lumen is. Lumen is a property on Mineral in between Broadway and Santa Fe. And it's vacant now, I think. Am I right? Okay. Sorry, Pam. I should have explained that to begin with.
I don't have an answer to this question. I know exactly where this question is coming from, and I've been asked it. And I talked to our city manager, and I said, there's a concern about who we select for traffic consultants, because city council doesn't do that. Staff does that for us. And just so you know how city council works, the city manager and the city attorney report to city council. That's all. Nobody else does. And I don't pick out the traffic consultants. Sometimes I question the traffic consultants. They do their due diligence in terms of determining traffic impact, and we have to rely on their data. Did I answer your question?
I guess, yes. So, Andrea, would you like to make any comments?
My thought when I hear the question is that it's implying that there's a bias in the research, and I would hope that it's data, but I don't know how traffic studies take place. So I don't know why it would hurt to have a different person do the study if that made people feel better.
Okay. Robert, do you have any comments?
Well, I guess I appreciate Pam and Andrea's response. In my current role on the school board, we're dealing with a very challenging issue around school attendance boundaries in Centennial, not in Littleton, and we have a consultant that we've hired and paid to kind of give us his best advice, and I feel like Pam is right. We have when we ask a consultant to give us their best advice, we kind of got to take what we get. I understand that it's sometimes it's hard to pick the right consultant. I'm a consultant. I get picked for other projects, not traffic studies, and I know that can be challenging. You got to take what you can get out of the consultants and use that information to make the best decision possible. And sometimes challenging decisions, the focus becomes the consultant instead of the challenging part of the decision. And I think we need to focus on the challenging part of the decision because all these are really challenging decisions.
Thank you. So our last question this evening. So Andrea, we'll start off with you. Would you support having Geneva Village be put on the historic register and existing units renovated if funds can be found?
So much to learn about what all that means.
Okay.
I don't know that it's fair for me to answer that until I have some of that information.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you. So Pam?
Yes. But I think based on the council meeting on Tuesday night, that's not going to happen. That it will, I'd be surprised. I think we're on a track and it's going to be closed in 2 years in 2025. And between now and then, the city has hired a consultant to help with relocation of the current residents. And some of them have received Section 8 vouchers so that they can then hopefully be relocated to different places. So the city understands that these individuals are very, very important, but I don't see how anything's going to change dramatically from this point on. It's a decision that's been a long time coming, and I think it's a done deal.
Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. I think this is I really appreciate Pam adding the context that the train has left the station.
Okay, thank you. So we had one last question, okay, just sent in. And so Robert, I'm going to start with you. Is 3K money going to be used to increase height and density of developments and housing?
I really appreciate getting asked about 3K because I think I made some statements that may be confusing versus clarifying. 3K is really for capital construction and maintenance within the city. And so that money is going towards what I would consider long-term investments in the city. And the biggest long-term investment we're going to be making over the next couple of years is around our roads. And then I think hopefully after we've kind of gone through our, what'll be years of road construction, we're going to have other opportunities to invest in our city. I'm really excited about those opportunities. I think we need to prepare our city for a future of climate change and less water availability. And I think we've got some water resources now that we need to think about how we're going to protect. And so that money is going to go towards, kind of capital and maintenance. And and while it has freed up some money for operations, it's not a huge, it's not directly into operations. And that operation stuff right now, when I went to the budget workshop as going mostly into public safety. The question was about how that money would go towards height. That's a regulatory thing. That's not an investment of money thing. So I don't think those two things are connected.
Thank you, Robert. So Andrea?
My gut says no. If I'm wrong, I really want to know, but it seems to me that that would mean 3K money goes to developers, which no, that's not happening. It goes towards us, towards what we've already laid out as projects, already allotted that money towards certain things that will have to not happen if we don't get to keep it. But Pam knows.
Thank you, Andrea. Pam?
I agree with what Robert and Andrea said. 3K goes to infrastructure and the roads and the buildings and the medians and all the things we need to do to keep up our city. What governs the density, height, and how our buildings look has to do with our Unified Land Use Code. That's what looks at. And the Unified Land Use Code, it was adopted in 2020, and it took years for that to be developed. And there was a lot of input requested from the community. And as we change that in 2025, again, the community will be involved. And if you have an opinion on it, you need to give your opinion. A lot of it is very technical. I read that thing, it was 450 pages and had multiple meetings, and things like a footnote would make a huge amount of difference. For example, a footnote allowed a master development plan to be administratively approved. We fought that, and now it goes to Planning Commission so that there can be public comment. So small things can make a big difference. And it's very important that if you have an opinion, that you try to educate yourself. And if it's too complex, you can work with staff to make sure that you say, I don't understand this, and I have an opinion about it, and I want to give a comment. So keep that in mind, but density and 3K are not connected.
Thank you, Pam. So we'll have 1 minute closing statements, and we'll begin with Robert.
Well, I want to repeat what I said at the beginning and say thank you to the League of Women Voters for holding this forum. I think this is a really valuable part of our community to have these opportunities for us to talk about the issues that we think are important for keeping our community a great place to live and work and retire and raise kids. And so I'm very grateful. And I'm very grateful for Andrea and Pam for sharing and this space with me and being flexible, having me joined by Zoom from Bellingham. So thank you very much. And I'm really looking forward to continuing my service to the community on the city council. And I want to just express how grateful I am for this opportunity and how much I really look forward to continuing to work with all of you in this audience and get your input and feedback and engagement on all these really important issues. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Robert. And now Andrea.
I think I would like to go back to the density question because I certainly don't mean to handle it lightly. I feel like being just south of Inglewood has some density things, some cute little houses that have been scraped and duplexes and quads and all things built. I don't think Littleton wants to be like that. I certainly don't want to see Littleton be like that. I do think if we choose to take empty parking lots and make them places where we can benefit, that will help us to not become places like that, I hope. So I think density is a bad word that we should be careful how we use. Yeah, like Robert, I'm really excited for this. I'm really excited for this council and for everything that I'm gonna learn and encounter in the next 4 years. So thanks.
Thank you, Andrea. Pam?
I've really enjoyed my time on city council and look forward to another 4 years and hope I get reelected. I like being a citizen advocate and working with the citizens and being the representative. As in terms of things that I tend to focus on, preserving Littleton's characters the best I can, enhancing community safety, ensuring the economic vitality of our community, protecting our natural resources, our trails, our parks, protecting our historic assets, and being fiscally responsible. We set policy, we review the budget on city council, and we need to make sure that we use our financial resources wisely. And I want to continue to be involved in the community and give back to the community, continue to listen to the citizens and advocate for the solutions that they come up with. We can't do everything, but boy, we can sure try, because this is who we're representing. We're representing you.
Thank you, Pam. I'd like to thank the candidates this evening, and to the audience, and also to our League of Women Voters of Arapahoe and Douglas County volunteers this evening, and also the Bemis Library staff, which is incredible, for helping us to set this up this evening. And we need to remind everyone that the views expressed today are not those of the League of Women Voters. And after we're done, if the candidates can stay, maybe Robert is on Zoom. And if they have a minute or two, perhaps you can meet with them. And then we encourage you to take campaign literature, which is out in the other room. And as a reminder, the election is on November 7th. Ballots will be mailed by the county clerk's office on October 16th. Thank you all.